It's a story about a group from Roman history called the 12th Legion in Rome's imperial army, and it happened historically in around 320 AD. There were 40 soldiers in the 12th Legion of the imperial army, and what made this particular legion unique was the 40 had shared their faith in Jesus Christ with each other. And all 40 of the men in the 12th Legion were Christ followers. All 40 of them. And so history tells us that, and by the way, they were known for being exceptionally strong and courageous and valiant in battle. History tells us that those 40 soldiers that these gentlemen represent received an edict from the emperor, as did all of Rome, that they were to worship. He didn't care if they worshiped Jesus, but he published a list of other gods. And he sent out an edict to all of Rome that all of the citizens of Rome were to worship this listing of these gods that he listed. Roman history says that the men in the 12th Legion sent back a message to him respectfully. Your Royal Highness, we will give our bodies in battle for any purpose for you. In other words, we're willing to die for you, but our heart's allegiance in worship can only go to one, and that is Jesus Christ. And it infuriated the emperor. Now, if you know anything about Roman history, these guys were not used to having somebody say no. So again, he sent back the message, you can worship Jesus along with the others. Again, they sent back message, we will worship only one, and his name is Jesus Christ. And so finally, the emperor was so angered that he sent one last message back. I will give you 24 more hours to decide if you will obey my edict or not. At the end of that time, if you choose not to worship whom I'm calling you as a citizen of Rome to worship, then I will send a platoon of soldiers, another platoon. They will march all 40 of you to the center of Rome, where in the middle of the city of Rome, there was a lake, and it was frozen over. It was the dead winter in Rome. And at that point, I'm sure it's not there now, that almost the city fair had this lake, and it was frozen over. The ice was very thick. And he said, to humiliate you for your lack of willingness to obey my edict, I will tell them that you are to be stripped and unclothed, and then to be forced to the center of the ice, where you stand and you'll die a slow, agonizing death of freezing. The guards will be posted around you so you cannot get off the ice. And all you'll have to do to get off the ice and save your life is choose to publicly be willing to obey my edict and worship the list of gods. So the morning came, and the men, all 40 of them, were marched to the center, and humiliation beyond humiliation, forced to disrobe. And then the reason the gentlemen up here hold candles, the Roman emperor, almost in a sadistic twist, said, give them before you put them on the ice, unclothed, give them each a candle to hold, and then light the candles. And he said sadistically, perhaps their God, Jesus Christ, will keep them alive by the heat of those candles. And so it was that it happened exactly as the Roman emperor had said. The 40 guys, there's an old country song classic out called 40 Martyrs for Christ. They huddled together in the middle, made an impromptu song. I don't know at what hour people started to drop from the standing position onto the ice, never to stand again. I only know that freezing is a horrendous way to give your life because it's so slow and so agonizing. But people slowly began to drop on the ice. The soldiers who were guarding the frozen lake would taunt, would yell, "Come off the ice! Come off the ice!" You know. And as the day wore on, they made a huge bonfire so that they themselves were kept warm, blankets, coats. Come off the ice! All they had to do was be, at least for that moment, willing to be unfaithful to their commitment to worship only Jesus Christ. In our generation, we'd call it tolerance. In their generation, and if you read the New Testament, you would call it a lack of faithfulness. 2, 4, 6 men dropped to the ice, I'm sure begging for death to come. I don't know how many hours transposed, but as fall came, it got colder and colder, and the Roman wind was coming, and the guys, many of them, still clutching the candle. I'm sure they fought to keep heating and keeping it on, although at some point, obviously, I'm sure they went out. Night fell, and again more, and 20 people dropped. 27, 34, finally 39 guys of the 40 had dropped. And by this point, the guard that was stationed around the lake to keep them from running off, they were drunk. They'd been partying and having a big whatever as they watched. They were drunk, and so now they're really taunting them on the ice. Come off the ice! Finally, in the cold winter, there was one soldier left standing. All the other 39 were either dead on the ice where they'd crumpled or praying to be dead. And I don't know what snapped in the gentleman. And I'm certainly not condemning, because I understand that pressure can make idiots out of all of us. But finally, he couldn't take it any longer. And he stepped over the bodies of his comrades and began to try to go speedily towards the men, towards the big fire, towards the blankets, towards warmth. Thereby renouncing his determination for Jesus to be his one and only Lord. And so the guys that had been guarding them went ballistic, because they at least had gotten one, so they're throwing a king-size drunken party, on the side. They threw blankets around him. They put him near the fire, gave him something warm to eat and drink. They're having such a celebration that they at least got one to renounce his singular faith in Jesus Christ, that they didn't understand what had been happening on the other side of the lake. Because the leader of the guards, not the emperor himself, but the leader of the guard platoon, had been for the last few hours watching the men on the ice. There's something incredibly life-impacting, incredibly contagious when you watch Christianity be lived out courageously with your own eyes. And that guy was watching the 39 guys who refused to come off the ice live it. Are you living that kind of life that people can watch your family, your friends? See, if sermons were going to get America saved, America would be saved now. Sermons by themselves won't do it, but living a sermon will have much impact. And so, one by one, he'd watch them. And so history tells us that the leader of the guard platoon disrobed himself, not wanting to cheapen their sacrifices. And the only reason that the other guys realized what was happening was across the ice in the darkness, they heard his voice as he began to walk slowly on the ice towards the center pile. And he shouted into the darkness, "I choose Jesus Christ. I choose Jesus Christ." And history tells us that he crawled over their bodies and stood in the middle. And I don't know the timetable of what happened and when. All I know is that Roman history says, in the morning when the sun came up, there were not 39 dead bodies in that pile on the ice. There were 40. Listen to what I beg you. Don't come off the spiritual ice. Do you hear me? Don't come off the spiritual ice. I don't know what your life is now. I don't know what it'll be next week or what it'll be a year from now. All I know is faithfulness. Keep going, a long obedience in the same direction. Worship team, come up with me. We're going to sing just one song that you sang during worship, because before you bless your amazing pastor, I think it is oh so appropriate that we sign up again. Listen, folks, this is not dress rehearsal. This is fourth quarter. I still think that I'll get to work with teenagers and college kids and leaders to usher in the return of Jesus. I believe that. Whether I'm right or wrong is immaterial. I am going to finish this race with the wind in my face. Do you hear that? I am. I'm going to finish this race with the wind in my face. I'm not coming off the spiritual ice. That's not just ministry. Don't come off the spiritual ice with your family, with your ministry here, whatever you do, with your job, being a witness there, with your friends. And so, you know what? We're going to sing that song. I will love you, Lord, with all my strength. I'll love you, Lord, all with my shield. I will love you, Lord, my rock, forever and ever, because you reign. You reign. You reign, Jesus. Whatever the ice may look like, let me give you the end. He reigns. He reigns. He reigns. Stand with me. And can you just offer a clap offering to the Lord? Because he reigns.